Hi, I'm Rachel Kornelakis.
I'm Lara Baus.
We're from Fostering Forward, Michigan. We're going to tell you about some resources today. Our resources that we're going to share are statewide, which means that almost any county you live in, you'd be able to access them. We've learned over the years and after working with so many families that a lot of families have trouble accessing resources, but then other families seem to know all the secret handshakes and seem to get all the benefits for their children. We just don't think that's fair or right, and we want to try to make sure that information is available to all families throughout Michigan so that they can get those benefits.
We actually have our own secret handshake, and we're going to show that to you right now, because this is how we get things done. See, that's how easy it is.
There you go, folks.
Everything you need to know.
Secret handshakes, they're a little bit awkward sometimes, and you have to really put yourself out there, and that's exactly what it's like when you're trying to access resources, right, Laura?
Absolutely, absolutely. Getting to the point where you feel comfortable saying you need help is probably the number one barrier for most of these caregiving families. And Rachel and I have both been there. We've both, in fact, with each other, been a little bit shy about, explaining exactly what was going on in our own homes, because it's hard. It's hard to feel like you're failing. It's hard to feel like you don't know where you're going, because we're all pretty capable people and in control of a lot in our own lives. So to be thrown off kilter is a pretty difficult deal.
So the good news is there's a lot of help available out here in the state of Michigan for foster, adoptive, and kinship families. And so the next few slides, we're going to take you through our main resources and teach you some of the tips and tricks and the secret handshake so that you can make sure you're getting those services.
We don't want anyone going without any support. There we go.
So Fostering Forward Michigan is the first resource we're going to cover. We have parent-to-parent pages on our website. Those pages have been written by foster parents over the years. I think we're in our 4th or 5th iteration now, so they've been edited and updated every year by Michigan's most experienced foster parents. We also have a statewide support group listing that's by county. It's real easy to look up who's meeting in your county, and we always strongly suggest that families meet in person. You can sign up as a member through Fostering Forward, and we appreciate when families do that. Give us your information, really basic email, name, county, and let us know that you're following us and that you want your voice to be heard through the advocacy efforts that we do every month.
Right. We're heard much better when we go places, when we can tell them how many families we're actually making contact with. So we do keep track of that data. Every time we talk to one of you on the telephone or via Facebook Messenger or email or in person, we're keeping track of that information. And we share those numbers with DHHS, with central office, and with the other groups we work with, legislators, so that they know that we're serious about the number of families that are out there looking for help.
So make sure that you sign up and let your voice be counted with the rest of your peers throughout Michigan. We do go through great lengths to protect your identity, and we don't share that information with anybody as far as your name or your email address goes. We only share your story, and your story is important. There's also a lot of links to DHHS policies, direct links. You can find the manuals on our website. And so it's not just our information that we've published, it's also links to important state documents.
Don't forget to check back to that page quite often. We're constantly having more meetings and setting up new trainings and setting up new documents. So you will find that if you come back to the website every once in a while, you're going to find new documents or more new parent-to-parent pages or new helpful hints edited into those pages.
So the first thing we're going to talk about is resources for younger children. And when you have younger children in your home, and if you're working or going to school, daycare becomes very expensive very quickly.
For sure.
And foster families need to know that daycare could be covered by the state when you're doing foster care. It's available up to the age of 13. A lot of families don't realize that after the age of 13, you could still get daycare benefits if you have a prescription from your doctor. And we've verified that through talking to many families who've made it happen for them. So if you have extenuating circumstances with your child and you need that daycare to last a little bit longer, and you can find a daycare that can accommodate an older child, Just know that it's as simple as getting a prescription from your doctor and submitting that to DHHS. We do have parent-to-parent pages that tell you exactly how to apply for daycare assistance. It's really important that you follow the process exactly. A lot of families get tripped up when they're making their application, and they end up losing out on benefits, and we don't want to see that. So it is a complex process. We can't go into the full process here on this video, but please know that those instructions are on our website, and we are available by phone to help you figure out how to maximize your daycare assistance benefits.
Right. Most importantly, when you do call us for assistance, the first thing we're going to tell you is not to reapply, to appeal the decision you've been given if it's been rejected or anything. That preserves the date of the beginning of your care application. And that's really important because it's really hard to get them to pay back pay. If you reapply, you're changing the date as of the time you wanted daycare coverage.
It's true. A lot of families get kicked out of that system for a variety of reasons. But daycare assistance is available to foster families. It doesn't depend on your income. It only depends on, are you working or going to school. That's how you would get qualified if you're a foster family. But because that system, the families, normally it is dependent on their income, our families get kicked out, denied, and it's a big problem. What Laura says is absolutely right. You don't want to reapply for that benefit. You want to go to an administrative hearing to make sure that you get the full benefits. And, you know, daycare, Laura, oh my gosh, even a week could cost you $400.
It's craziness, or more.
Yeah.
Especially if you have a special needs child or you need extended hours or something like that. Then it's craziness what the stories we hear about the dollars owed.
So with Head Start and the Great Readiness Programs, those are school readiness programs for kids ages 3 to 5, so kids that are not going into kindergarten or not going into young fives yet. Those programs are run by the state. They're very good programs that teach a lot of skills, a lot of socialization to kids. And foster children do get into those programs. They should be on the top of the list if your child has a foster care status. So they cannot deny you access to those programs. We do sometimes have calls from families where they got a placement very late in the year. And in that instance, if there's not a spot for that child, you can't push your way into a program. So that's a time when you would go back and rely on the daycare benefit to get some kind of care for your child. But again, daycare is if you're working. The Head Start and Great Start Readiness programs do not have that qualification. The only qualifications are the age of the child.
Correct.
And we did go ahead and give a link there for that program. You can go and find by county information on how to sign up.
Yeah, I like Head Start. I've used it for a lot of kids, and it's been beneficial. I would say that Head Start, Great Start, daycare, all of that goes through the Department of Education. It doesn't really go through DHHS, but DHHS is who qualifies the kids for eligibility because they are in foster care through DHHS. In all actuality, all of those programs are run by the Department of Education, and Fostering Forward Michigan does have contacts with people in that department also here in the state of Michigan. So we can help you get something pushed through if it really needs to be pushed through. In most cases, if you can't get to the services you need, we can help you figure out how to advocate for that, and it can be your win.
Absolutely. Free school breakfast and lunch, again, foster children automatically qualify for that. On the application that you make with your school, there would be a little checkbox that says this child's a foster child. And if you check that checkbox, the benefit's already there. That benefit should last till the end of the year, even if the status of the foster child changes.
Yep.
They changed that recently because they want to have food stability for all children.
Right.
And also, this could be available to foster or to adoptive or kinship families who are low income.
Yes.
And a lot of times, adoptive families don't think they would qualify, but especially larger families that have 5, 6, 7 kids, I would say go ahead and check because you may meet the criteria in your school district. There are some school districts in Michigan that have across the board, all kids get free lunches and free breakfast, and I think that's a great thing. But if that's not the case in your county, you can go ahead and get the application here through the web link we've provided and through your local school. The other thing I want to say about free breakfast is that it can be a real motivator for some of our kids who love food, Laura.
Yeah.
And it's hard to get them out of the door in the morning. They're not wanting to go.
They get to go get that yogurt sickle.
Yeah.
Whatever the school's giving them.
When they figure out they're going to get some food when they get to school, a lot of times that's a good motivator for them. So keep that in mind, families.
And that application in some school systems, not all, but in some school systems, just checking that foster care box on that application then keys the school off to a whole bunch of other services. So you may find, and I found this once and was at first appalled and then laughed about it and realized it was just the school doing a great thing. A kid came home on like the third day of school with new socks and new underwear in their backpack. I didn't know why the school was buying underwear. And then I figured it out. Qualified for free lunches and free breakfast, and they figured they'd be helpful. Somebody had donated a whole bunch of stuff. So, you know, different school systems have different things that they use that little checkbox to spur in their social services programs.
Yeah. So the other resource for young kids in foster care is free cloth diapers. You can go to the Rebecca Foundation website and they will ship you diapers. There's a certain amount that they'll ship you per year. They'll also work with you on how to launder those diapers, which is really nice. And so it's a good benefit for families who might have 4 or 5 little ones and they're struggling to purchase disposable diapers. It happens. It's very expensive. I will say there's a little caveat. If you're using cloth diapers, you don't want to send a child to visits with their birth family.
Correct. Parenting visits should still be disposables, right?
Yeah, you have to have those disposable diapers for those visits just to normalize it for the biological parents. But we do say, hey, free cloth diapers. That's a great benefit.
Right.
So now we're going to go on to the next few benefits, and you'll see that they're highlighted in blue. And the benefits that are highlighted in blue, we want you to know that those are available to foster, adoptive, and kinship families. So the other resources we're targeting are for foster families, but these that are highlighted in blue on each slide could go for any foster, adoptive, or kinship family. So WIC is available to any child 0 to 5. Any foster child automatically qualifies. And adopted kids, as long as they keep their Medicaid card, so if you have subsidy and Medicaid through that subsidy, regardless of your family income, you can still access that benefit until the age of 5. And that's really important for families who have a lot of little ones or who have little ones with special formulas or other needs that they're having prescriptions for. Some families don't even realize, Laura, that you can get specialized formula or feeding bags or other specialized items through WIC.
Right. Well, how would you know that unless you came across the need for it then found somebody to tell you? The first time I had a baby that needed special formula, I didn't know. And the doctor knew. And the doctor gave me a prescription, and I walked out of that appointment like, what am I supposed to do? I had no idea. But I was smart enough to take it with me to the WIC office when I went the next time and show it to them. And they gave me all the instruction I needed. They're very, very helpful people. It's an excellent program. But unless you know that that's available, or you know that you have that need, why would you even think of it?
Is it a secret handshake?
It is a secret handshake.
I think
the formula, the secret formula handshake. How do I get the secret formula?
You know, and just knowing that with that Medicaid card you can still qualify, that's another secret handshake. Not a lot of families know that, so make sure you help us spread the word to our community. But that's a benefit they can keep on accessing. The other thing I'll say about WIC, new foster families, they always go to that appointment and they forget the baby.
Right.
It happens all the time.
They figure it's part of running errands and getting things done, so the baby's either at daycare or they drop the baby off at an alternate caregiver because they just want to get things done. And trust me, we both know it's hard to go out and do things when you're tagging a bunch of kids along. But the WIC appointment, the children need to be visible, they need to be seen, they need to be there with you.
And they're going to test their iron. That's not very fun for them, but they do their best to soothe the children and get that done quickly. So don't go to that appointment without the child. You'll have to reschedule and it'll delay your benefits.
Right.
The last little caveat to WIC that I want to talk to you about is if you call your county and for some reason they're really busy and can't get you in quickly, you are free to go across county lines
to any county. Yep.
So you could go to another office that could get you in same day or next day if that's a benefit.
And some of us even though we live within one county, we live closer to another county service center. And you can't access all benefits that way, but WIC is one of the nice ones where it doesn't matter where you live, you can get service.
That's true. Early on helps families discuss concerns and identify problems for young children, developmental delays. And so early on, every foster family should have an automatic referral for a child 0 to 3. Now, so many times I talk to families and they're like, no, nobody ever told me. Oh my goodness.
That never happens.
Those kids have to get checked out by early on. They're the experts. They can detect things that we would never think of. And for these kids that have been through trauma, neglect, abuse, they really need to have an assessment done by these professionals. I will tell you that there's been some problems with the MySACWIS, with the computer system,
Sure.
and making referrals within that computer system. But the representatives from early on told us that if that's a barrier, just have your worker call them and make the referral over the phone. We don't want the computer system to delay our kids getting these needed appointments.
Correct. And it would be up to the caseworker to then keep a note in their file that they made that phone call, so that when the MySACWIS issue is cleared up or the hold on that kid's case is cleared up in the computer system, they can go back in and put those notes in to show that that referral was made. Those referrals are very important. They're important when you go to court for those hearings too. The caseworker needs to prove that they've been trying to make sure this kid is getting all the services they need. So if that is a barrier, like Rachel said, DHHS, those caseworkers or the supervisors, if the caseworker doesn't feel comfortable, can just call early on and make a telephone referral.
And again, that benefit is open to all families, so you can feel free to call them if you have any concerns about your child. Even if you just want to talk about something that you noticed and you're not sure if it's a problem. If your adoption was already finalized a year ago, 2 years ago, that's okay. Those people are happy to talk to you about what's going on. They want to help families and help kids, and they have some really good parents working there.
They really do.
Very knowledgeable.
Right, they really do. Okay, we're gonna click here. Ta-da!
All right, so resources for older children. Again, the top resources are for foster families only. The DHS education planners, these are professionals who work for the state of Michigan, and all they do is work on youth in foster care and their educational opportunities. It is for kids that are 14 years of age and up. If I have a real special case with a family, sometimes I'll say call them anyways, because these education planners really know the system. But normally 14 and up is kind of the threshold that they use, and they're able to give one-on-one assistance to kids. If your kid is struggling, they have an IEP. There's a bus ride that's 2 hours long, which we hear that from families all the time. If they're trying to access resources for higher education, if they're looking at college, or if you are having problems where you want the child to stay in the school of origin and want to try to work that out, all those issues, any issue you can think of is something that these education planners can help you with.
Right.
And it's a free benefit. So please, you can click on that link and find them. They're by county. There's only 28 counties in Lower Michigan, so unfortunately that's not something that's available in the UP. But again, if you had an extreme case, I would encourage you to make a call to somebody, to one of those people, because even though it's not in their kind of jurisdiction, they could still offer some valuable advice.
Sure. Excuse me.
So the Young Adult Voluntary Foster Care Program, kids who are aging out of the system at the age of 18, they can extend a lot of their benefits to the age of 21. And we want families to know that that is an option. And we want kids, especially kids who might be displaced, to know that's an option. So please share that information and share that link.
Right. And this is for, as it says, young adults. This is for kids who are not going to reach permanency in a family setting. That this voluntary foster care allows these kids to continue receiving services with some consent on their part. They're not sure they want to be adopted. We're not sure exactly what the legal status is going to be for the long term. They're most likely permanent court wards for the longer period of time. And so they can just extend their own benefits and actually help themselves learn how to get money, manage money, and take care of some of their own resource needs. It's a really good program for some of those kids that are going to be stuck in between, a foster home and a permanent place.
Absolutely. And if you have a kid who, at the age of 18 said, I don't want to deal with this anymore, I want to be on my own, but maybe a year or two later, they're changing their mind, they're having a really hard time struggling, this program is available to them. So they can go back.
They can go back. They can walk into a DHHS office and ask for help and be placed back on the rolls until they're 21.
The next thing we're going to talk about is the Handbook for Youth, and it's a guide to help kids figure out how to maneuver through foster care. Older kids have a lot of rights to be informed and to have a voice for themselves when they're in foster care, and this is a really good guide for them to just print it off and give it to them. Their workers should be doing that, but sometimes workers might not know about it themselves, or for some reason they miss it, and so we want to encourage families to make sure that they are giving this to their youth, and youth are informed about what their rights are.
And it doesn't hurt for the foster parents to be able to go through that and know what those rights are and what those kids have been told, what they've been handed by their caseworker, and what they've been told. Only you know how the child in your home processes information. And so it might be necessary for you to review it and then have a conversation about some of those rights so that those kids don't have the wrong impression of what that really means. It can get kind of sticky.
I think it's
when they're 16 and they think they know everything.
So. Really? A 16-year-old that knows everything?
And I'm just telling you, I met one once. It was a lot of work.
So with the handbook, one last thing that I'll add is that I met with some kids who are in foster care overseas. And one thing that they really emphasized was that they had a lot of information and a lot of control over what was going on while they were in foster care.
They seem to get a lot of input, you said.
Yeah, they really treat
them. They got to really be a part of it.
Like they're competent and they're informing them all the time. And so they didn't feel that loss of control to the extent that a lot of kids here in the States do. And it really left an impression on me. So that's another reason why I really want to encourage families to inform those kids that are staying with them.
And that's something we can do as a group. All of us can band together and decide that we're going to make the best educated foster children. If DHHS, the state, the federal level, if they're not going to mandate that to happen, this is one of those grassroots make the change things that we have the ability to do. Educate ourselves on what their rights are and help them understand what their rights are so that they have that little bit of self-control. And self-esteem comes with that.
Absolutely. Empowerment. Who doesn't want to be empowered? And especially our kids feel so powerless, and they have such a lack of control. So this is a really great way to empower them. Fostering Success Michigan is an amazing website for kids who are in care. There's all kinds of resources and links there. It's targeted for youth, and they also have some great scholarship opportunities. For me as a parent, I've had a lot of luck looking at this website when I'm looking for college information about all those scholarships that are available to our kids when they get older. There's really detailed information there. And so that's a good resource for families, but a very excellent resources for kids, older kids who are in care.
Cool.
Mentor Michigan, a lot of kids need an anchor, especially when they're going through the system. If they're going to move through multiple homes or they're going to go back home eventually, having someone who's always with them, no matter where they're going or where they've been, is so key to them having success. And so we strongly encourage mentorship programs. Mentor Michigan is a clearinghouse. It has a whole statewide list of organizations offering mentorships to kids.
That's cool.
Yeah, so you can go and find different organizations who might be able to match you. Michigan
MYOI.
Youth Opportunities Initiative, MYOI. Do you want to talk about them, Laura?
Well, I've had 3 kids go through MYOI so far. And I like the program for the majority of what it is. I like the program. It is in my case, in our county, it was a bi-weekly meeting of all of these kids that were 14 years older. or older in foster care. They did life skills classes. So one week they'd go and speak to a chef and learn how to make some dinner. Another week they'd go to the grocery store and learn how to buy a dinner for $10 or less. There's some compensation involved, so there's a little bit of reward if you come and do your hour and a half and do this and do that. The kids are in charge of, there's forms to fill out. They get to bill for their time. They bill the MYOI program and get paid. They have a dual account, so they have a savings account. Some money gets paid into the savings account they can access, and other money, the other half of it or another percentage that they choose, goes into an account they can't touch without having to make a sort of presentation as to what they want to spend that money on. So they have to choose. Do they want to buy a laptop? Do they want to buy a car? Did they get a car and they need car insurance? You know, how do they pay for that stuff? And this is a great way for them to earn a little bit of spending money, have some available, have some saved, and learn some life skills through the process. I love the program. It's not, I don't think we have enough kids taking advantage of the program in this state. And I'm not sure that we have enough adults or community partners volunteering to help those MYOI coordinators in all the counties. I think some counties are running a pretty skeletal program because they just don't have the resources. It's one person that's part of a caseworker job. It's not a full-time gig. We could step up and help as foster parents or adoptive parents. We could step up and help.
Sure. And I think the good news is there was some extra funds that went into next year's budget for this program.
Correct.
So
correct. And that's in response to a huge budget cut last year. Yeah. And they saw dwindling returns on what the program was able to do for kids. So somebody found some money, which is great.
Hopefully that'll re-energize this program. Another little secret handshake here with this particular program is that kids that are adopted after the age of 14 might still qualify for this program and qualify for the financial assistance that's available for this program.
The financial assistance, they do come last on the totem pole of money if they're already adopted. So 2 of my kids were part of MYOI after adoption. One adopted at 14 and one adopted at 16. And so the money is there for the kids currently in foster care. And then if there was enough money left over in the kitty, when my kids billed, they were able to get paid. So they didn't get paid every single time. However, they knew that, the kids knew that, they were well informed, and they went anyway because of the life skills and the fun and the camaraderie. And it's kind of like a support group. They're there talking to people kind of like them. So it's kind of half backwards support therapy for them too.
It does have that peer-to-peer element to it, which is very powerful. There's a lot of leadership, encouragement for kids to step into leadership roles there. Also, with the kids who are adopted but over the age of 14, some families that I've talked to, the big barriers are with driving, or with class trips and things like that. And so that's where they're trying to access the funds with MYOI. We can't promise anything, but we do want to know that there's a little secret handshake there, and you might be able to access those funds.
Ooh.
So out of all the kids I've had placed in my home, I can't say that there was ever a child that I didn't have to advocate for in school.
Right.
Like, it's so key. All the kids that have come to me are at least 2 years behind in some subject, Laura.
Sure.
There's just no way that a kid can be displaced or suffer abuse and neglect and not have a deficit in school. I shouldn't say there's no way. There are those exceptions. There are kids who are straight A students or who are doing
and there
very
are
well.
some kids. There's a small percentage of kids that come into care without having suffered abuse and neglect, but certainly there's trauma there. So maybe they haven't been behind up to this point, but now they're in care, and we might watch them backslide a little bit. So we need to continue to advocate. They like the puppy barking.
Yeah.
It's good. I'm glad I got a new puppy right before we did this.
So we really want to help families advocate for kids in school. Kids struggling in school need support. We talk to a lot of families that the kids struggling at school, they're acting out, they're having all kinds of issues, and they come home and the parents are very angry with them. And that's a really hard place to be in. And so we just want to encourage families to take up this advocacy piece and fight for your kids at school. Get them what they need because they need support. They're not going to magically one day wake up and be to grade level or have that motivation or feel competent. It's going to take a lot of work on behalf of the family.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
And so these are some really good resources. These are my favorites when it comes to school advocacy. The DHS education planners, which we've already talked about. Michigan Alliance for Families, which they hold this statewide contract for supporting kids with special needs.
Sure.
And they have a lot of good information for foster families on their website. Every county has a support person, and they are a parent who has had a child with special needs. My parent partner in my county is Kristen Columbus, and she's been an amazing resource for me.
Good.
Sometimes I will upload my child's IEP and email it to her so that she can take a look at it, and then she'll call me and let me know what kind of feedback she has. It's invaluable. It's such a great resource, and it's totally free. I can't say enough good things about Michigan Alliance for Families, and I encourage you to connect with them. Michigan Protection and Advocacy Services. They're the lawyers.
Right.
They bring the muscle in.
They bring the muscle.
Yeah, and they do a really good job of advocating for kids with special needs, and they're very interested in helping families like ours. So please, if you have a situation that's escalating, that you feel like there's no resolution, or you need special support, they are the people to call. They also provide a free manual on their website. If you call them, they will mail it to you if you're not a website person. Or you can just download it in a PDF file. And that manual is where I started learning about the special education process.
Awesome.
Lots of good information there. The Student Advocacy Center of Michigan, they serve Washtenaw and Jackson County right now, but there's so much good information on their website. I could not share that with you. Like, it's a really good resource. They have a lot of examples of letters. So sample letters that you can just fill in the blanks and send it to your school.
So their advocates work in those two counties, but their website has stuff that any of us could use and jingle with a little bit and use to our advantage.
It's
cool.
True. It's
okay.
True.
Good.
And then the final little graphic there, the Michigan Department of Education actually has their own hotline. If you have any kind of questions for them, you can call that hotline for free and get an answer, which is very cool.
And they like that. They like getting phone calls. I went to a training with some of those people about IEPs, specifically for trauma kids and foster kids. And they really like getting those phone calls because it kind of lets them have a little bit of their thumb on a pulse of what trends might be happening. And there was one example they gave in one of the trainings that I went to where a large group of educators went to a specific training, and there was one piece of misinformation there, and it hit every single county in the state. Even though there wasn't really an educator there from every county, they all talk to each other and they're in professional groups together. Every single county in the state had that one piece of misinformation. So that when they hear those things, see those trends, they'll put out some publication and some communication to everyone that needs it, to every county, and make sure it gets straightened out. I like that group of people. They're also part of the compliance arm. They help with federal compliance issues. So
let your voice be heard, folks. So with health resources, we'll start with the DHS Health Liaison Officers. So just like those education liaisons, now we have liaisons that will work on healthcare. And so if you're struggling with benefits, transferring from like one county to another, which is a real common complaint that we hear from families, we want to encourage you or your worker to reach out to these health liaison officers. They are experts as far as the healthcare system goes, the Medicaid benefits, and they have special access in the computer system that your worker at your agency just doesn't have. And there's been many times when I've had a kid from another county, like I had a kid coming in from Wayne County, which is notoriously hard to get switched over to a different county. For weeks, we tried and tried. I had one phone call to this health liaison officer, and she pushed a button while we were on the phone, and it was done. And I'm not kidding you. It was that good. Also, a lot of our foster families, unfortunately, they come up with unpaid bills where they're getting put to collections. It's a pretty sad situation. If you call these health liaison officers, they want to help with that. They want to make sure that Medicaid ends up paying for those bills and that your credit does not get dinged on that.
Right.
So We also want to give you the hotline number for Medicaid here. I've had a lot of success calling this hotline number when I'm looking for different providers for my kids. I would encourage you to call them if you have questions about your benefits or if you're looking for specialized care.
Sure.
They've always been really good to contact, and any family can contact them. Community mental health, or CMH. So what I want you to know about CMH is if you're looking for mental health care for your kids, there is no other entity in Michigan that can provide more benefits. The bottom line is they have access to the most funding. If you go to a private provider, your Medicaid is going to cut you off at 20 visits for therapy or for other services.
If you can find a private provider in your area that will bill Medicaid and play that billing game.
Yeah,
that's the tough part.
But with community mental health, they can bill the back door of Medicaid and get more visits per year if that's what your child needs, if that's what they think is necessary. So if you have a child with really specialized needs, I would encourage you to go to CMH so that you can get more appointments and so that you can access their other benefits like the respite care,
right,
community living services, support groups. There's a lot of different things that they can provide you with.
Some of those things they're going to provide you eligibility for. You're still going to have to do some work to make those things happen in your community. Sometimes respite is pretty difficult. I know in some counties there isn't a plethora of respite volunteers that really want to come babysit or take your child and deal with their special needs for 6 hours so you can attend a wedding or go do, whatever you need, or just have the respite, just have the break for yourself. You're still going to have to do some work and help find some providers, but they will provide the funding and the training for those people.
Yes.
And that's something that we can't do.
So one thing that happens with a lot of our families with CMH or community mental health is they will go there and they get turned away.
Sure.
And it's hard for families to go in for a first-time assessment and really tell other people what's going on in their house and going on with their kids. A lot of times they're afraid to say,
terrified.
Look,
sure,
we're having all kinds of problems. X, Y, and Z is going on, and it's really disrupting our family life. It's disrupting school. Your first instinct is to kind of protect yourself and protect the child. But I want you to know that when you go to community mental health, they are ranking you based upon the answers you give to their questions, and your score has to be high enough for you to access their services.
Their services are based on level of need. So you want to make sure that you're not sugarcoating behaviors. You're not sugarcoating the impact of those behaviors on your household, the community, school, church, wherever you take these kids. And you want to be telling the truth about what those behaviors are. And you want to be telling the truth about how those behaviors affect you and affect others. If you are terrified of some kind of behavior, you need to say that you're terrified. Maybe it isn't something to be terrified of. Maybe someone can talk you off that little bit of a ledge and help you understand that that's really not the end of the world. Lots of behaviors aren't the end of the world. But the community mental health people are the people that have to start that process for you. And in order for them to start it, you have to get in. And getting in is up to the truth telling and the not being afraid of stigma and the not being afraid of this or that or the other thing. You need to start talking about exactly what it is you're experiencing or exactly what your concerns are. They'll help you. They have to know what to help you with. And that's the hardest part for our families.
It's really hard to walk into strangers and tell them all these things are going on. You feel judged.
Right.
You feel like you failed in some way.
Right.
But we want our families to know that that's not true.
That's not what's happening.
When you go to CMH, it's okay. It's a safe place to talk about what's really going on. And you have to. Otherwise, you could miss access to those important benefits.
Correct.
So make sure you're going in with all your information.
Right. I was just going to say, the other thing with CMH access is we can help you get CMH access, but it's because you've called us and you're in crisis and we're coaching you through what to say. If you start with the truth at the beginning, at the intake when you're first asking for help, you don't need us to tell you how to get in there.
Yeah, that's true. So one benefit that's next on our list is the SCD Waiver. That's a benefit that comes through community mental health. So you have to get into community mental health to get access to this waiver. SED stands for Severely Emotional Disturbances. I don't want that to scare you off. It doesn't mean your kid is seriously, off his rocker.
It means they're emotionally dysregulated, and their emotional regulation age and ability doesn't match their chronological age.
It just means your family needs a lot of help. And there's a lot of our kids who definitely can benefit from these extra services. The SCD waiver provides a lot of extra funding and a lot of extra services for our kids, including wraparound in your home where a team would come in sometime during the week and work one-on-one with your child and with your family. It also provides extra respite hours, which families who are in crisis really need that. So we want to encourage you to look that up online, understand what it is, and again, if you think you qualify for that, make sure you're giving honest information when you go in for that assessment with CMH.
You do need to ask for the SCD waiver assessment. You do have to ask for that. In very few cases will they have an intake for you at CMH and then say, oh, the score is high, we're going to give you this other program. You have to say, I'm concerned about these behaviors. I want to talk about services, and I've also heard about the SCD waiver, and I'm not sure if my child qualifies for that. The minute you ask for the child to be evaluated for an SCD waiver, they cannot refuse to evaluate the child. They can tell you the child doesn't qualify because they already know the CAFIS score, the PECFA score, but they can't refuse to evaluate. And that's one misnomer that's out there. Lots of families will call, and I talk to lots of people who say, they said he doesn't qualify. They're not even going to do the evaluation. And I redirect them right back. Nope, they're going to do the evaluation, and then they're going to tell you why the child doesn't qualify. And that's their policy. So if you need help with policy, we'll help you with policy. Rachel and I seem to be best friends with the guy who's in charge of SCD waivers. We both decided he's a really good buddy, so we'll help you.
So with the SCD waiver, Laura mentioned the CAFIS score, and that's the score that they're giving your child, and that's the score that they're using to measure whether or not you would receive the services from CMH or from the SCD waiver.
Right.
And so to get your foot in the door at community mental health, the CAFIS score is it 90?
It's 90 for older children, it's 70 for very little people, and 120 for adolescents, for teens.
Okay. And what about to get the waiver?
Those are the scores for the waiver. I'm sorry.
Okay.
I don't know what the entrance scores are. Those are the scores for the SCD waiver.
Okay. I think
so those are high scores. That is severe behavior in really seriously social issues causing trouble in the community. But everything about the SCD waiver is designed to keep the child in the home with the caregivers that do the best, that know the child best and can give the kids the best care. The SCD waiver is not about getting these kids remanded to some special center. It's all about community supports, more supports in your home, and keeping that child in a loving environment.
I think that's good for our families to know.
Absolutely.
So I know a secret handshake here.
Oh, you do?
I do. So a lot of families have been told that the SCD waiver is only for foster children, but that's not true.
That's right.
Adoptive families and kinship families could qualify. And as a matter of fact, adoptive families who may not have good health insurance could really benefit from the SCD waiver because they consider it a gateway to Medicaid.
Yep.
The Medicaid that you receive would be for a limited time, but having access to that Medicaid could be critical if you're in crisis because it could pay for extra treatment.
Correct. And if you adopted a child and you have dual insurance, so you put them on your private insurance, but you were able to keep Medicaid as a backup, the SCD waiver then makes Medicaid the primary insurance for mental health care. And you still get to keep your private insurance for better medical care if it's a better program. So it does do a lot of wonderful things for adoptive and kinship kids, in general, community children as well.
So we encourage you to check out those links and read up about the SCD waiver and about the community mental health services in your county. Children's Special Health Care Services is designed for children and some adults who have special health care needs. And so there's a list of over 200 diagnoses on their website. And if your child has one of those diagnoses, then you could qualify for their services. And their services offer additional funding.
Sure.
Say if you're doing hospital stays, if you're doing a lot of travel, if you need a hotel room, if you need specialized equipment that your insurance just isn't covering. those are the type of things that this service could open access to.
Correct.
They also have a team of parent liaisons, parents who have raised medically fragile kids who have
Correct.
a lot of experience, and they're really great people to talk to. You're always welcome to call and talk to their liaisons. They'll be happy to answer questions, and they can definitely get you on the right track with applying for this benefit if you think you would qualify.
Right.
Again, you can go right to their website and check out all the different things that would help your child qualify for that. Physical therapy, occupational therapy, and speech therapy. A lot of families think that's something that only happens at school or for maybe adults who've had accidents. But the truth is that these therapies can really help our kids, and it could help them with behaviors, targeting behaviors and solving behavior problems. So to access these therapies, what you need is a referral from your doctor. And then you can go and see what kind of coverage you get under your insurance. I can tell you that most Medicaids would cover all those therapies. They would cover up to a certain number of sessions every year.
Sure.
And then if you were still needing more sessions, then they would reevaluate and they could cover, they could extend it. So there's really a nice benefit there for families who have Medicaid. A little secret handshake that I was going to say,
there's a secret here, and I've used it twice. I love it.
Yeah, what? Go ahead.
Well, my secret, and maybe it's the same as yours, is that if you want to be able to access these therapies outside of school, when you have your 504 behavior plan or your IEP planning meeting, you do not sign the papers that allow the school district to bill your insurance or bill Medicaid for services. If you don't sign and let them bill your insurance or let them bill Medicaid, they're not using those dollars and they're available for you outside of school hours. If you sign those forms and let them bill the insurance, your insurance is going to not allow you to take them, to a Saturday morning 3-hour sensory play session or, whatever, just because someone else is already billing for it for that parapro that's in the school. So let the school pay for their own staff. Yeah. And you use your insurance benefits for the child outside of that with an additional prescription from your doctor.
It's great advice. It's a great secret handshake, Laura. I'm glad that you brought that up because families, there's no reason for you to allow the school district to bill your insurance. It saves them money, but it doesn't benefit you or your child in any way. And having access to these therapies beyond school hours could really help your child move towards healing.
Absolutely.
The secret handshake that I had in mind here was that, with other psychotherapy, you need approval from your birth parents if the child has rights with their birth family.
Right.
These therapies are considered medical, and you can authorize medical treatment. And so you don't need those same authorizations as if you were seeking a psychiatrist or another type of psychotherapist.
Certainly you're still going to tell your caseworker, and certainly you're going to still make sure that everybody knows and someone is informing those birth parents that this is happening.
Yeah.
But it's something you have the power to do and get started for these kids without having to wait until the next court date and ask for permission and run someone down for a signature, all that good stuff.
And again, these services can target behaviors. I know that might be something that families aren't familiar with.
Sure.
It was big news to me the first time I heard it. And so I want you to go ahead and look that up and see, what can a speech therapist do for my child who's having trouble with violent outbursts or, using their words not in a good way. Or what can the occupational or physical therapist do with a kid who's throwing big tantrums? You'd be surprised what you can find on the internet information about how they're helping kids through those types of issues.
Mm-hmm.
Easter Seals of Michigan, they have the contract for trauma assessments. And so all foster kids coming into care should have a trauma assessment.
Correct. Doesn't mean they all have to go to an Easter Seals Luna project person, but policy is now that all kids in foster care will have a trauma assessment upon coming into care. And I believe, is it every 90 days the caseworker has to do another little mini review to make sure it might be 90 days to coordinate with hearings, with review hearings and that kind of thing. But the caseworker should be having constant conversation with you about trauma and minor trauma assessment.
So I know that there's additional funding next year for more trauma
Correct.
assessments,
Correct.
and Easter Seals may not have that service available. It may be available at other providers in your county, and so we're going to have to keep an eye on that and see how that evolves.
Right. And watch. Mm-hmm.
But right now, families, and it's not just foster families, any family can go onto the Easter Seals website, fill out a form, which is a mini trauma assessment, and they'll let you know if you qualify for services. And if you do qualify based upon the information you provided through their website, they'll contact you to set up an appointment.
Yep.
So it's a real easy way for families to get some support.
Yep.
What you need to know about a trauma assessment is they're not doing a diagnosis in those sessions.
Sure.
And so that was something that kind of concerned me, that we might need more additional assessments where a doctor could make a real diagnosis for my kids. But the information they provide is invaluable. Like, it's very good strategies, different things that could help your child, helping you understand their behaviors, and especially for school. You can take that information to school and get some extra support.
Correct.
And get some ideas on how to help a child move forward with school.
And because they're part of Easter Seals, they also have many other funding lines. So they have many other lines of programming that they provide. And if the child you have qualifies for those, they will invite you to take part of those too. And they've got grants and other funding projects that help to fund that. It's a wonderful organization. They provide a lot of support to a lot of our families in this state.
Yeah. And I think if they recommend something, some other kind of treatment, and you don't have access to it, financial access, they'll work to try to help you. They'll try to help find funding for that. So it's a good resource for our families.
Let's see what's up next. Goods and services. It's a good one.
So many families contact me and say, we're having trouble making ends meet. We have all these kids, or we've had kids that have come and gone several times during the year. And it does become a financial burden over time. I know that's contrary to what some people believe, that we're all in this for the money, we're making a lot of cash. But the truth is, most of us are really trying to stretch every dollar. And so we wanted to provide a couple resources for you. The Foster Closet of Michigan, they provide free clothing and so many other things to our families. There is a group of foster closets all throughout Michigan. There's some that do not belong to the foster closet organization, like they're operating through a church or independently.
Or school group or something.
But basically, if you have a foster child, you can go there, pick out clothes just like you're shopping.
Yep.
So you're going through racks with clothes, you're getting underwear, you're getting socks, you're getting toys. It's an amazing service. I can't say enough good things about the Foster Closet of Michigan and other organizations who are doing the same things in areas where they haven't expanded yet.
And they do accept donations of furniture. So like when my house started clearing out, I started taking bunk beds there and all kinds of, dressers and all kinds of things. It's good to get in touch with them if you have a need, because they just might have a way to get it for you or to help you. And they're busting at the seams. That our communities are excellent communities. Everybody likes to donate clothes someplace where somebody's going to be able to use them. And foster kids touch a lot of hearts. There are a lot of families that just can't figure out how to take kids in, and that could we could talk about that one for hours. But at least they can give, decent clothes and shoes and things.
Yes.
And these foster closets, some of them are busting at the seams. Go. Do not feel ashamed, and do not think you're taking something someone else needs. You need it. The kids in your care need it. Make contact with these people. Go when they're open and get what you need for your family.
And then use that money for something else. I had a family contact me this week.
Stop buying fancy designer clothes with that big, huge check you're getting.
Well, they had spent a lot of money on glasses, on eyewear. Sure. That's something that's not covered.
It's not covered, right.
What do you mean I'm out of this money? They were very upset over that. And I said, well, have you used the foster closet? No. Okay, I want you to go and get free clothing from the foster closet, and then the money you would have used on clothing, that's going to cover your eyeglasses.
Cover the glasses,
right. Sometimes our families just have to get creative like that. And there's no shame in going to a foster closet. People are so generous because they want to help our kids. So let them help our kids.
And I've taken some of my teens to the foster closet, not to get them clothes when their closets were full, but we went on the volunteer sort day. So we help sort clothes and put clothes away and size them and match them up and all that good stuff. It's a good way for the kids to learn how to give back a little bit too. And my kids were old enough and behaved well enough that I could trust them to, fold clothes or put them on hangers, while I was in the room. But I mean, it's a great way to teach them to continue to give back, especially since they're receiving so much from the community.
And our kids love to help.
They do.
They're natural helpers.
They want that. They want that attention, and they're good helpers.
Yeah,
all of them.
So with Comcast, foster families and other families who might have a lower income could get the free routers and reduced internet costs. I think the last time I checked, it was like $9.99 a month, which is a great bargain.
Right.
If you don't have that access.
For basic access.
Yeah, go ahead and click on that link and figure out how to get access to that. It's a great benefit through Comcast. Just let them know you're a foster family, or ask them if you would meet the income requirements. Families, we need first aid training now. It's a requirement, and so we've provided a couple links there of websites that we know provide that, and websites that we know that you can print out a certificate. Scanning apps. So we really tell foster families and even adoptive families, you have to document everything. It's going to come in handy down the road. Like, there's just no way you can get around it. And so a lot of families use their phones to take pictures, or maybe they have machines in their home. But if you don't have that, you could do the scanning app. And the scanning app is really cool because it goes one step further than a picture. It'll help you turn that picture into a PDF file that's very easily emailed. And also you could store it on a cloud server.
And then label it however you want, all that good stuff.
Yeah. So you've got in your pocket a scanning system and a file system. And so I want to encourage you to check those out. There's lots of different apps, but these are just two that were highly recommended to us. Life books. So with my kids, when they were in foster care, we didn't just do life books, we did picture books. And we made that their Christmas present every year. And it's been a really long-standing tradition.
Oh, their year's worth of family photos and experiences and things?
Yeah.
Neat.
And even past their adoption, 7 years later, we're still doing those books every year. And, it's really positive visual for them. It's creating happy memories. Like highlighting all the good things. And there's years that have not been all good things.
Right.
But they can always
highlight
back to that picture book and see, oh, yeah, we did have good times there. And so I really recommend a life book. I know agencies promote it. I'm not sure if it's required anymore. I don't think it is.
I don't know if it's still a policy requirement for licensed homes for foster kids, but it's still highly encouraged. In the DHHS life book was just revamped. Remember, our friend Rosemary Jackson and all of her friends at MSU just revamped that life book last year, and we've got a link there to that for that mayor resource life book there. I can't say enough about that project and how much time and energy they put into that project and how important they made every single one of those pages. They thought about how it would affect and impact or implode all of these different kids from all of these different things, and they made those pages absolutely the best they could be. And it can be printed in whole, or you can print one page at a time. If there's a page you don't want to go to because that's going to cause a little bit of friction, just ignore that one, skip to the next one and print the next one. Do it with your kids.
Yep, it's very cool that now you can print out pages, and it's more like a scrapbook now.
Yes.
You can do all kinds of things with those pages. So the mayor.org has the lifebook pages that we're talking about that were just recently redone by our friends at MSU. And there's a couple other links there. Like if you wanted to do picture books, the Shutterfly and the chat books are really good resources that are inexpensive. So
I love that idea. I've seen lots of Shutterfly books for kids created like at the time of finalization of adoption, right? That talks about their history, their foster care time. But what you're doing, I think, is one step above and beyond. That's way cool. Because those kids are going to have that. Yeah. And then if they're having a moment, do your kids go seek those out to calm themselves or to find a happy memory?
They do. It becomes a storybook that they read at night sometimes.
And don't we want that filing cabinet up there to be full of all positive memories? Yeah. So positive memories make good decisions.
Absolutely. It helps to,
Right.
bond your family
I love
together.
it. I love it.
And these are inexpensive ways to do it. So
Right.
check those out.
Right.
Big Families of Michigan, they offer birthday parties in a box and they'll ship it to you. They do have tickets to Tigers games sometimes and other venues. And they also supply other items for big events. So if your agency is not in contact with them, tell them to check it out. They could get some free supplies there for their big events.
Mm-hmm.
And you can check out the website as well and know that if you needed some birthday party supplies, that they're happy to send them to you.
That's great.
They love to help kids in Big Families.
Where was
in
that when we
Michigan.
were having birthday parties with 25 kids at a time? Where?
It adds up quick.
It does.
For the seventh generation, they offer specialized services. They go out and recruit people in the community who could provide free eye care or provide lessons for instruments. There's just a wide range of things that they provide. They also have their own clothing closet over there.
Uh-huh.
And so that's an organization that's not as well known, but they help a lot of families. So I would encourage you to check that out. Some of their services, you might need your worker to do a referral for you.
Sure.
Okay.
Taxes. Oy vey, taxes.
Bottom line, I should have put the link here to the IRS website, but it's there, folks. Let me tell you something. If your kids have lived there, if they came home from the hospital,
right, even if it was December 30th,
they qualify. And if that kid's lived with you 6 months and 1 day, they qualify as dependent. You can claim them on your taxes. I know there's all kinds of controversy and chit-chat about this. I will tell you that I myself have claimed our kids, and they were always claimed before me by birth family members who were filing fraudulent claims. We were audited 3 times in 1 year, so we went to every level of the audit. One question I get is, did you have to provide all your receipts? No, I didn't.
No,
They
don't care about accounting. They care about whether you provide support and how many days you did that.
We did have to do some crazy things like get letters from the school and letters from other people
to prove
saying
that they knew the kids were there.
They were really living with us. Right. But there was nothing so extreme that I wouldn't claim those kids again. We absolutely claim them again every year after that. And so I don't want families to be afraid. That's a huge benefit for our families.
Right. And it doesn't have to be the first 6 months of the calendar year or the last 6 months of the calendar year. It can be that 6 months. It can be the 183, 184 days in the center of the year. It does not have to be. It's got to be consecutive time. There have been, I worked for the IRS for a brief period of time. There have been some appeals where kids were in a home for 3 months, gone for a couple months, and then back for 4 or 5 months.
Okay.
And we were able to advocate and be very assertive with the tax law and get that to count as 6 months or more. Because this law was actually not designed for foster children. It was designed for the children of divorced couples.
Right.
And so divorced couples share kids in weird ways across the calendar. So you just have to be the custodial person, household, for that child for 6 months plus 1 day at any time during that calendar year. And yes, the birth parents will also claim them. And you'll get a letter that says that your refund or your tax return has been held up because they need to try to review this. And it will be frustrating. So my best advice to you is to not use the IRS as a personal savings program, because you won't get a bonus check at the end of the year. Someone else, you might have to wait. You're going to have to fight, provide some extra documentation, and wait for that money to come. But you will be, as long as that child was with you, that 6 months plus a day, you will be found the person that provided the majority of support for that child. Plain and simple. You will be.
Yep. And also, for adoptive families, don't miss out on that adoption tax credit. You have to file that because that can carry over for, I think it's up to 5 years now.
Yep.
So maybe you can't use it this year, but you better believe that there's an opportunity within the next 5 years to use it.
And it's not a refundable tax credit. So when you do use it, it allows you a full tax refund of all the dollars you paid in up to a certain threshold per each year. So you may do your tax planning in a really smart way so that you come close to breaking even with the IRS every year. And say they withheld $7,000 from your paycheck over the course of the year. you were only expecting to get a $100 refund, you'll get that whole $7,000 back because you overpaid.
Right.
And the credit itself, if you went over that amount, then that overage is what carries over for 5 years. Got to use it all up in 5 years. If you don't use it all up in 5 years, then you don't get to continue waiving your liability. But you will get whatever tax you paid in back because it wasn't yours to pay.
And yeah, if you had an adoption in the past 5 years and you didn't do this, you can always go and amend your taxes.
Within 3 years. You only get 3 years to amend a tax return. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. So don't miss those tax deductions, you guys. It's big for
it's an excellent benefit. Wishing it were refundable fully, but 5 years of carryover is pretty good too.
So camps and recreation, again, our family's trying to stretch every dollar. Kids bowl free and kids skate free. It's not too good to be true. It's absolutely true. Go through their websites. It's for all families. And sign up.
Yep.
It's a lot of fun, right?
It is fun.
And you get a couple free outings during the summer on rainy days. It's a great way to stretch your dollars.
And kids bowl free, for real, really is 2 free games of bowling every single day of what they consider the summer season. So I went and bought really cheap used bowling shoes for everybody, so I wouldn't have to keep paying the bowling shoe rental fee.
Oh yeah.
Because the bowling itself was free and they had balls there.
Perfect.
If the weather was crappy or the weather was super hot and I didn't want to run my air so that everyone thought that they could run around, in sweatpants because they wanted to be chilly all summer, I put them in the car and took them to the air-conditioned bowling alley. We bowled for a couple hours and then we came home.
So check out those websites, folks. With the summer camps, a lot of summer camps will give our kids scholarships, especially foster kids. And so there's some that you can check out. Respite camps. A lot of our families need respite on the weekends. And these are camps that we know, even some of them will offer respite weekends during the winter, which is very hard to find. So seek out those respite camps. They do all kinds of needs. They do all kinds of ages. And again, some of them are running through the winter months, which can be valuable.
That would be amazing to be able to have that break in February. Mm-hmm. I mean, it really would.
Yeah, when you really need it. Royal Family Kids Camp, that's only for foster kids. They have a great ratio of chaperones in that camp. It's one-on-one. It's usually sponsored by local churches. And it's something that your worker needs to make a referral for, but if you have foster kids in your home, it's a great experience for them. Sign them up for that and send them. If you can, I highly recommend it.
Well, and these are people that are trained and understand who these kids are too. So it's not like you're sending them to a regular vacation camp at a church. You're sending them to a camp designed specifically for kids that may or may not have some behavioral issues. Correct?
True. Okay. It's true. Very highly specialized. The community enrichment and sports scholarships. So I want to encourage you to always ask, especially if the kids are in foster care. When we've signed kids up for different things, like gymnastics, for example, is a very expensive sport, and we let them know that those kids were in foster care, they would give us a 20% discount, which is a lot of money if you're spending hundreds of dollars on enrichment. So always ask, you guys. It never hurts to ask.
Right. I think I got a discount on a trombone once for a kid that thought they wanted to be in the marching band. Not that they lasted in the marching band, but I didn't have to pay full price for renting that trombone.
It's a good way to try something out.
Yeah.
So we want to talk to you about the foster care chain of command. It's not a resource in the sense of other resources, but it's still a resource for our families. We have to advocate for what our kids need. We have to advocate for what's right in the system.
And there's a really right way to advocate, and there are some really wrong ways to advocate.
It's true.
And the chain of command is the answer to the right way.
This is what we hear at every meeting, you guys, every training. They want you to go through the chain of command. And so it starts with your worker supervisor. And it's okay to contact that supervisor. We want you to know that. Absolutely. If you're having trouble figuring out who the supervisor is or how to contact them, we'd be happy to help you find that information. But in in social work, the supervisor reviews the cases with the worker on a regular basis, and they're working as a team.
Sure.
So it's not that you're calling someone that has no idea what's going on with your case, or it's not that you're trying to get your worker in trouble. They're a team together, and so if something's going on, it's okay to escalate it to the supervisor. They want that. They consider that a courtesy.
Correct.
Actually, they much rather you call the supervisor than call someone higher up.
Like the governor.
Yeah, we have lots of families that want to go straight to the governor.
Don't go straight to the biggest government official you can think of. Use your chain of command. You might gain going to the legislators or the governor. I mean, you're going to get your story heard, but you're going to make life a lot harder for all the people that really could have helped you in a snap.
Yeah, give them a chance.
Give them a chance to do their job.
Right, because most of the time they can and they want to. And your agency has a written complaint policy. They have to have that, and they have to provide you with a copy. And so when you're making a complaint or you have a grievance, go ahead and follow that complaint process. It's really important that you know what it is. And chances are you signed a piece of paper saying you have
right.
that process,
it would be
you know it, you understand it.
It would be your agency grievance policy is what it needs to be titled. And you did sign something that said you had a copy of it and you understood that you had a copy of it and you would use it. If you didn't, that's a whole nother thing. But you did. Your licensing workers are really, really good about making sure that policy, if there's full compliance with that. So if you can't find it, if you don't like it, if it's been 3 years since you saw it, you can call your licensing worker and ask for that. You can call the caseworker and ask for a new copy of that grievance policy, and then use it. Follow the chain of command that's described there.
There are oversight organizations that people can make complaints with, and the one we'll start with is the Foster Care Review Board, and they respond to a foster parent's appeal when a foster parent is objecting to the move of a child. And there are certain criteria there. You can't object if your child's going back to the birth families or something like that's happening. But if your child is being moved from your home to another home and you think that it's egregious or you totally disagree with it, you want to contact the Foster Care Review Board right away. They will pull that case and review it, and they will talk to everyone involved with the case and try to figure out what's going on. Also, the Foster Care Review Board, they do pull all different kinds of cases just to look at what's going on. They're taking a sample to assess the quality of service to the children and to the families.
Looking for trends and looking for gaps in service or training topics.
Yeah.
So they publish an annual report each year. They pick a different topic and they publish a report based on what it is they've been seeing.
They're great advocates. They're definite allies for foster parents. I would never hesitate to pick up the phone and call the Foster Care Review Board. If you have a question or concern, you're not sure, go to their website, pick up the phone, and talk to someone on the other line. They're going to help you. It's a very low-risk situation to contact them because of the scope of the work they're doing. The Office of the Children Ombudsman, they are responsible for enforcing the Foster Parent Bill of Rights right now, and you can call their hotline or go through their website to make a complaint against the Foster Parent Bill of Rights. We've heard over the years that they are not as receptive to families as we'd like them to be, but we've heard recently that that's improving, and we hope that through our advocacy efforts and through other organizations' advocacy that we're going to continue to see more protection from the Office of the Ombudsman, and we just encourage you to keep calling them. Right.
I have 100% confidence that we're going to see improvement and we're going to see change there. I know that the Ombudsman's office has some limits to their power, but they also have the ability to make some things known. And just like the Foster Care Review Board, they're looking for trends. They're looking for violations of law, violations of policy, or violations of rules within the child welfare system or juvenile justice system, that kind of thing. They're also responsible, just so that you know, their largest responsibility is to investigate every child death, especially those of children in the child welfare system. So they're looking for policy problems and things that might have caused some kind of egregious thing to happen. They are very, very busy people, but their biggest piece of advice is follow your chain of command
Yeah.
If you can't get anywhere with your chain of command, or you think something is urgent and there's an emergency, you can contact the ombudsman's office and they'll look into policy violations and that kind of thing. They will only review cases that are currently open. If the
Open
case
for foster care.
for foster care, if the foster care case or the juvenile justice case is now closed and you are gathering documents to go back to the ombudsman's office and have them slap somebody for doing something wrong, it's not going to happen. They will not review it. They don't have the manpower, nor do they have any dollars to support hiring more people. I tried. I offered them my checkbook. I thought if I paid $15, maybe they'd hire a new person. They didn't want my check. But they can only, by the way the office is set up, is look into current foster care cases. So if you wait to make these complaints about policy, law, or rule violations until after a child is adopted or after the child has left the home and gone back to their birth family and that foster care case is closed, there's absolutely nothing they can do. They won't even assign it for investigation because there's nothing they can do with it. Even if they investigate it, there's nothing they can do with those results.
And it's a secret handshake, you guys, again, because I know a lot of our families, they want to wait until the adoption's done before they speak up. They're afraid that something could happen that would jeopardize the adoption. But families, please, if there's something egregious going on, the ombudsman's office is a pretty safe place to go, and it's okay to call them and make a complaint.
Right.
We need to stand up for these kids and what's right.
Right.
BKL, the Bureau of Children and Adult Licensing, actually they call that DWAL now, Department of Welfare, Adult Licensing. Yeah.
Children's licensing, the adult licensing, adult foster care. We're not doing that today.
Yeah. They have a new name, basically, is what we're trying to tell you, a new acronym, but it's the same organization as it has been for years. And what they can do is they can investigate problems with your agency, and they can create a citation to those agencies. They can say, look, we're going to write you up on this. There's evidence of the problem that was going on posted on their website for each agency. So if there was a finding, some kind of problem where they broke a rule, you can find all that information published with them. We do tell families that this is a high-risk situation. We've seen agencies get really bent out of shape when families contact BKL because that's who they get their license from as well, and they don't want to run into trouble there.
They don't want licensing violations, just like you don't want licensing violations, and so they can get a little bit touchy. Now, law and policy in the state of Michigan says that they cannot retaliate against you for having made a complaint. And everybody we ever talk to anywhere says that retaliation is 100% against all policy. And if it's happening, they want to know about it.
I think
and
the
so
problem,
that's our sticky spot.
Yeah, the problem is that what happens is they come, back with allegations against the family, and it's hard to prove that it's retaliation.
Right.
And so because we've seen it happen to several families, I wouldn't feel good about giving you this information if I didn't inform you about that, because
there are some risks. You might have hit an uncomfortable spot in your case. However, if you're wanting to make this complaint, you've already hit an uncomfortable spot. The one thing you do need to be aware of is if you go to this website to make a complaint, there is a way to make that complaint anonymously. Now, when you make it anonymously, you're making the complaint, and kind of like calling central intake, you're agreeing to not have an update on the investigation. If you're being anonymous, it means you're not giving your name, address, or phone number. Nobody's contacting you back to tell you what they found. But you can make some of these complaints anonymously. In other situations, we've had wraparound workers make these BKL complaints. We've had other people in the community working with the kids make the BKL complaints. Those people have interactions with the caseworkers and the caseworker supervisors too, and sometimes they seem to think something's out of whack, and so they'll make a complaint on behalf of the child. Everything about these complaints is about the child. It has nothing to do with the people caring for the kids. It's not about our emotions, our attachment. It's not about how we're being wrong. It's about how the children are not receiving appropriate services. And so sometimes there's a community partner that will make those complaints.
I think that's a good secret handshake.
I do too.
Absolutely.
I like to use it every once in a while. Sometimes I nudge people to make it.
The other thing about this organization is that you could make a complaint years later after adoption's done, whenever, and they'll still go back and look into the files and try to figure out what happened and if there was a violation. And so it is a good thing that
it won't carry as much weight years later, but at least then they might be able to see trends. And certainly, if you know of other people working with the same agency or the same caseworker or having the same problem, having more than one family make the same complaint does create a trend and will alert BCAL to, and BCAL does have, like Rachel said, they can write a citation. They can also cancel someone's license. And there have been DHHS offices, county offices, that were in jeopardy of losing their ability to manage their own foster care cases in their county. So they take this seriously. This is the regulatory agency that keeps children safe in the state of Michigan, period.
I'm going to go on to the next slide. Now, that is the foster care chain of command that we want you to know about, and we want you to use it. So what about our adoptive families? There are post-adoption resources that are specific to adoptive families and the children they're caring for. I think the most prevalent, the most important one is the Post-Adoption Resource Center.
Sure.
And so they offer short-term emergency services to families. They have support groups. They have events throughout the state. They also can offer services to adult adoptees up to the age of 21. So if you have a child who's trying to transition into adulthood and they're struggling, they could do case management for that child
Sure.
up to the age of 21. If you do have post-adoption services come into your home and work with you and your family on a home-based basis, and again, it's short-term, it's not something that could happen long-term, they do have flexible spending for some families, which could provide $300 to $500 to spend towards a variety of needs, depending on what's going on with your house. And so we just want families to know that it could be a good benefit if you have an emergency and maybe you need something installed in your home or something fixed in your home, or it could be a lot of different things, but there is a little bit of money available through their services. There's also a lot of good support. I think the Post-Adoption Resource Centers do a good job of
They do.
providing support
Many of them
groups.
have support groups around the state, and provide lots of access to new ideas and ways to get to new services and those kinds of things. And whether you're raising a foster child or you adopted a child, there are times when things are overwhelming, and it's just good to make a phone call and have someone tell you that, I know that happens. That happened at my house once too, and this is what I did, and then now we've learned of this new thing. Why don't you check this out? Or why don't you meet so-and-so for coffee? And they might team you up with an experienced adoptive parent too in some parts of the state.
So the Post-Adoption Resource Center is funded by DHHS, and if you click on that link, you'll see that they have different regions. So they have an office in every region throughout Michigan that covers several counties. Also, the Post-Adoption Resource Center is what I would call a gateway provider, which means they can open doors to other services that you might be having trouble accessing. So if you're having trouble getting into CMH, if you're having trouble getting the SCD waiver, if you're having trouble with adoption subsidy, they have had special training and they have special contacts in our system that they could try to go through to get you access.
Right.
So yeah, feel free to reach out to them. The Adoptive Family Support Network, or AFSN as they're commonly called, it's a parent-to-parent support group, and so it's very experienced adoptive families, mothers and dads, coaching and working and supporting with your family. And it's a really good parent-to-parent, peer-to-peer support system.
Yep.
They have a nice Facebook group that you can join, and there's a lot of activity in there of asking questions, answering questions.
They do a lot of nice events around the state too.
Yeah, they do.
Like the beach days and the Father's Day stuff, and they do a lot of really nice things for adoptive families.
Yeah. So check them out. You can click on their website and get more access or call their offices. And again, that's a statewide program. The post-adoption toolkit, if you click on that, MARE, the Michigan Adoption Resource Exchange, published that toolkit. It has a lot of information in it, where to go and who you should know in the post-adoption world. The Adoption Subsidy Office, I provided their contact link here, so if you have adoption subsidy contract in place, you can always go to the internet to find out who you're supposed to be phoning or emailing.
The names do change.
They do. They change frequently, unfortunately, but that's where you would get the information, is online. Now, a lot of families have questions about adoption subsidy. They don't really understand what's available and how it all works. And so I always direct them to the North American Council on Adopted Children, or what we call NACAC. Those acronyms. There's acronyms everywhere, but NACAC. Yeah. I think they have the best information published on their website, and we've provided a link for you there. Once you read over that in detail, if you still have some questions, we'd be happy to answer those questions for you.
Absolutely.
So kinship families, adoptive and foster families, we spend so much time preparing to do this, and kinship families, they just get thrown right in.
Right.
They had no idea it was
something just happens one day, and then all of a sudden they've got this little bundle of something.
Yeah. And it's so complex because their family's still their family, but yet they have their children. And so there's so many layers with kinship care.
Have you ever done a kinship placement? I've done 2. Have you ever done any?
No, I haven't.
Oh my goodness gracious. It is a whole nother bag. So I will tell you, if you are a kinship family, I feel with you exactly what it feels like. It is, I believe, the hardest kind of placement there is, because your loyalty has to be with the best interest of the child, but you have a historical loyalty to your own relative that can't care for their children. And that's hard water to walk on.
It's very complex.
It's amazing. So
many layers. So the MSU, or Michigan State University Kinship Care Resource Center, I consider them the authority.
Me too.
When I first started doing parent-to-parent and family support several years ago, they taught me a lot of what I know, to be honest. They've been doing it for a long time. And so I wouldn't hesitate to go to their website or make a phone call. They do have some free webinars that happen this year, and so you can go and access those. Some of those webinars are good for all kinds of caregivers.
Sure.
So check it out. AAA, or what they call the Area Agency on Aging, every county has the AAA office, and they help people who are 55 years and older. So a lot of kinship providers are grandmas and grandpas, or maybe great aunts and great uncles. And so those agencies could offer some additional support. Even though it's not foster care related, they have funding to help families. So especially work on your house or transportation. I always say, look around. Don't just look in foster adoptive communities. Look all around for all your resources.
And then these are the people we would contact when we start needing to take care of our parents at the same time we're taking care of all these children, correct?
Absolutely.
All right. I like that idea.
The Family Independence Grant. So DHHS provides a small monthly payment for families if they're not receiving foster care payments. So you can't be getting any other funds. And I think it's like $138.
Yeah, somewhere between $100 and $150. Yeah.
But if you're a kinship provider and you just got 3 of your relatives dropped down your front door and you really need money, this could be a resource for you. You have to apply for this at the DHH office in person, and a lot of times they don't know what you're talking about.
Right.
So you want to make sure you go with the name written down and ask for the application specifically and apply for it there.
Right.
So it's a good resource for families
who
are getting
It's great bridge money while you're in the process of trying to determine how long what the endurance of this case is going to be, and home study and licensing and all that stuff. If you can't get any funds until you're licensed, this is a good way to at least have a little bit of help until you jump.
Once you get the foster care payments, this would stop.
Right.
But like you said, it's a good bridge.
It's a good bridge. It's something. It's better than nothing.
Yep. Grandparents as parents. So there's lots of grandparents caring for their kids, their grandkids. They may not necessarily be in foster care, but they can relate to some of the issues that grandparents are having if it's a foster care placement. I think it's a really good support group in Michigan. They have a lot of in-person meetings and events, and they can do referrals and give support as well.
And I don't think that they really kick you out if you're not a grandparent. Like if you're an aunt or an uncle, I think you're still allowed to go and
Okay.
get help. I don't think you have to be the grandparent.
That's
Maybe
good to
you
know.
do, but
That's good to know. It's worth a call.
I think I've heard of other families that went.
So a lot of our families are caring for kids that have developmental disabilities, or they have real mental health needs. And so again, I say look all around your community. Don't just look at foster and adoptive resources. Look at everything that's available to you. The ARC of Michigan, they provide information, advocacy support, activities and training for people who have developmental disabilities.
Sure, I love them.
So, yeah,
I love them. I use in this county, the ARC is really strong. Yep.
I did some training program with them, and they really changed my outlook on a lot of things. Like guardianship, or things that people with developmental disabilities can achieve. They're amazing advocates for their people, and I would not hesitate to check them out or take one of their trainings. They're really a great organization in Michigan. If you have a child who has autism or who's on the spectrum, or who you suspect is on the spectrum, I would check these people out right away. The Autism Alliance in Michigan, they're statewide. They do all kinds of support, advocacy, and events. One really cool thing is they have navigators, so they have parents answering the phone who've parented kids with autism, and they're happy to help you. Like, to me, getting another parent on the line is essential. I want to talk to someone who's lived this and who knows what I'm going through.
Right.
Michigan Coalition for Fetal Alcohol Resources, Education and Support, or McFairs. So fetal alcohol is a big issue for our families, and there's been a lot of new research and new developments. And this is a Michigan coalition that could be a gateway to more information.
Keeping up on all the new stuff, unlike you and I.
Yeah.
Right.
I think they're even part of the Michigan Task Force for fetal alcohol.
Awesome.
So they're good advocates. The Association for Children's Mental Health. So that's the kind of parent advocacy group for CMH, and you can check them out there through that link. They have a lot of good web pages that has detailed information, kind of like our parent-to-parent pages.
Right.
And they also have an annual conference that you can check out. The thing that I really loved about their annual conference is they had a peer group there. So it was young people who had kind of embraced their mental health issues.
Sure.
And they were there to help each other and talk about what their feelings were and how they could help other kids move through it. Impressive. And I really liked that. I think it's a really important resource for our families. So suicide and depression, I've known too many families now that have lost kids. It seems to be a trend. If you feel like your kid could be depressed or have suicide, please reach out to somebody. Don't hesitate.
And I think beyond, this is youth suicide and depression, but I bet if you called them and said, this is causing strife in my home, and I'm concerned about my spouse, or I'm concerned about an adult child, or I bet you they'd get you to the right people too.
Yeah.
Because this is a difficult lifestyle we've chosen.
Yeah.
And that's what it is. It's a lifestyle.
Yeah. So check them out for support.
Let's see. Oh, look at that.
We got
all
to the
end. Yay.
So we just want to say thank you for your time and all your support. And we hope you learned some new information. I don't think I've ever given this presentation and not had people
in the room. Right. Yeah, it's kind of weird. I wanted to be sure that everybody understood that we are not a DHHS contracted organization. And so our funding and our ability to provide this support to family doesn't hinge on DHHS liking what we say or approving of what we do. What we've done is we've decided to bring a bunch of organized and experienced parents together and share with you all of the best information we can gather. And we do that without taking money from the state so that our opinions can be our own. We don't want that conflict there. Now, do we like DHHS? Do we work with them directly? Yes. Absolutely. Yes. We like having those contacts, and we like being able to go to them and ask questions and talk about policy and brainstorm about policy changes and those kinds of things. But we get to do that as representatives of the larger community of foster, adoptive, and kinship families. We don't have to, our paycheck doesn't hinge on what we tell you. However, your ability to get access to the services you need and advocate for what you really need help with hinges on our having those really good relationships in Lansing and with some of these other groups. And we're doing a great job building those relationships and making sure that we're getting great
job.
Well, not by myself. I didn't get there by myself. You put me in that chair.
Yeah, we have
right?
a good team.
So we have a great team. But we want you to know that this training is for you and from you, from peers. And if there's anything you think we didn't cover or you'd like us to add to a new recording some years down the road, we will do that. Certainly get in touch with us and let us know if there's something that you think we skipped or you really want more information on. Yeah. And we'll either lead you back to our webpage where that's available, or we'll find a way to create something so you have it.
Yeah, because our number one resource is each other.
Absolutely. We're one big team here.
Yeah.
One big team.
So keep moving forward, everyone. I know it's hard, but let's keep fostering forward.
Thanks for joining us. Let us know what else we can do for you.
Right up there.
Oops, this is how you stop it.